Hello. Welcome to another Umineko stream. We're gonna play End of the Golden Witch today. Second time we're doing that. And I forgot what happened. No, I did not forget what happened last time. That's ridiculous. I could never. I could, but I didn't. I'm just starting up the game real quick. And we're gonna skip the intro that continues to play every 30 seconds. It plays every 30 seconds, unless I click start. We found that out the hard way last time. But yeah. The intro does not contain spoilers, more like hints, and the intro, we've already seen that in last episode, so it's not like a huge deal. Although, sometimes it'll just mix in the episode 7 and 8 intro, which I don't recall, but that probably has spoilers, so it's a bit strange that it does that. But I'm not going to show you the intro every time. That would be a bit over the top, you know? Also, thank you for your work advice, Kat. It's very useful. I'll keep some of that in mind. Yes. We need to load a game because we already started this one. I've blush stuff set up now, and better lip syncing and better movement. And I'm still tweaking here and there. He's gonna be even better in the future. So, thank you. Let's start off with a content warning, as always. I cannot actually access the timer for this right now, so every time that you redeem a save today, I'm gonna also repeat the content warning in the chat. I'll have to do it manually. Because the site that I used to access this broke. Content warning for Umineko. Character deaths. Detailed descriptions of gore and body horror. Child abuse. Discussions and mentions of suicide and suicidal ideation. And misogyny. It's a full whammy, but, you know. It's actually comparatively toned down for this one compared to the first 4 episodes. Lucky us. I'll drink some water as a way to honor your save redeem. And we're gonna load the game. Okay. So, last time, we finished Alliance of the Golden Witch. In the process of which, well, turns out that the witches, Burn Castle and Lambda Delta, are kind of super against Beatrice, the both of them. So we found that out. Additionally, Beatrice's fight with Battler has left her in a kind of almost comatose state. She doesn't talk much anymore, or at all. She occasionally sort of reacts to stuff, but she mostly just kind of sits there. It's very sad. And essentially, yeah, she's like in a sort of, like she's not really there, you know? Yeah. Essentially, Battler has to kill her. He has to find out what, her big secret is. He has to solve the mystery. And, until then, he's just sort of sitting in the Rose Garden of the Golden Land together with Virgilia. And then they get told that, Lambda Delta is starting a new game. And Battler's like, nah, fuck you, I'm out. I don't want to play. Burn Castle can stand in for me. And the 2 witches start playing. And yeah, they play the game without Balor there. And he later goes to check on them. We haven't really seen what happens once he gets around to that, because we dove into a flashback. In which Kinzo dies. Like, this is what appears to be how he actually died, with servants around, and Natsuhi and Krauss are dealing with it, and right when Natsuhi is like, I'm going to go call the family, Krauss is like, don't. Nobody move. Nobody leaves the room. And that's where he left off. That's an interesting one, Kat, whether it's a ploy or not of Beatrice. Because, yeah, it could be. Lambda Delta seems to think that it is. She is 100% convinced that it's all just fake. Last night that we checked in with her anyway. She has tricked Battler a lot of times, so it could very well be a ploy. Yeah. I guess we'll have to find out. Alright. Unable to comprehend what she had done to spark her husband's wrath, Natsuhi ran up to him. Let me just move my mic over a little bit. There we go. What's wrong, dear? Have I said something rude? If so, please forgive me. No, that's not it. That's not it. Wait a second. Give me some time. Yes, I understand. It's important to have time to sort things out inside your heart. We were just going to leave quietly to give you the time you need. And I'm telling you to wait before doing that. Listen, just no one move. Not even an inch. If you're tired, then feel free to sit in whatever chair or sofa you want. So just stay quiet and shut up in silence. Don't do anything. Just stay right there. Those unreasonable words felt like a glimpse of how Kinzo used to be. Natsuhi couldn't hide a slight surprise at those words, which made it seem as though Kinzo had possessed her husband. Natsuhi told the servants to wait for the time being. She ordered them to sit in a sofa a short distance off, approached her husband, and spoke to him in a small voice. If you order it, I will wait however long you ask. I won't move. So please, try and calm yourself. No, that's not it. That's not it. Was it really his father's blood, or was he actually being possessed? Krauss's disorderly style of speech strongly resembled Kinzo's. As she watched this, Natsuhi felt with even greater certainty that Krauss was indeed Kinzo's son. That he was the true successor to the head, more suitable than any other person. Natsuhi. Over here. Krauss stood up and headed towards the window, trying to lengthen the distance between himself and the servants waiting on the sofa by even a small amount. Natsuhi realized that he must have something secret that he wanted to talk about. Yes, dear? What is it? Dad dying would be bad. Would be? But he has already passed away. We can't change reality. That's not it. Now is a bad time. What do you mean? I've been putting Dad's fortune up as collateral. Once the issue of dividing the inheritance comes up, I won't be able to hide it. What? Collateral, you say? How much? You remember how I helped out Kondo-kun with Melodyland? Didn't I tell tell you to break ties with that person? You told me you'd refused him. Why? There is such a thing as a man's honor. I couldn't refuse. Krauss claimed to hold honor as a virtue. However, Natsuhi knew that he most often used this as an excuse after he couldn't bring himself up to pass a deal. Couldn't bring himself to pass up a deal. I can't read today. No joking, but the change in font actually makes the text harder to read. I'm gonna look into changing it if I can. Because, it's rough. That wouldn't be a problem if we had plenty of money on hand. But didn't you borrow quite a lot of money for the plan to turn this island into a resort? Yeah, I did. And there were people here and there who lent me a hand along the way. If I'm going to repay them, I can't just sit around on my hands. You need money to repay people. You need money to make money. You can't even get started without money. And even the plan for this island would be proceeding smoothly if only there hadn't been problems with the planning company. I had the cooperation of government officials. I even had the governor's personal guarantee that this would become the newest travel destination in the Tokyo metropolis. The groundwork I laid was completely perfect. Random chance and bad timing were against me. It was just a bit of bad luck. Like a traffic accident. That was no accident. It was fraud. You were tricked. They were never drawing up plans for making this island a resort in the first place. That's not true. Hijikata-kun's vision was simply overflowing with foresight. The way his eyes always focused on the whole world and the future taught me that things I always believed to be mere dreams were only the tip of the iceberg of what is possible. To the whole world, to the future. You heard him say that too, didn't you? Yes, I did. And I think I remember telling you what I thought after we returned home. I said that he was suspicious. That he only spoke of dreams and didn't have his feet planted on the ground. And that you must not have any further relations with him. Hijikata-kun is a wonderful, pleasant young man. One could learn a lot from the way he lives. I can respect him despite his youth. I won't have you insulting him. Krauss, oh my god, please. Just... Random chance and bad timing is the summary of Krauss's life based on how the relatives talked about him? Yes. And, they were right. Yep. But I mean, none of these people are like 100% bad. Bar Kinzo. But like he does have redeeming qualities that aren't like a fully redeeming, but my god, they were right about him. Anyway, that's what you said about the whole moon tourism thing. You kept saying it was visionary, that it looked to the future, that it had high aspirations. And what was the end result? Eventually, even you yourself admitted that it was utter nonsense. I was sure something was wrong from the moment that strange man showed up claiming to be a high-ranking NASA official. The only issue was that foreigner was an international swindler. Mr. Sonozaki and I were both victims of that incident. Even now, his vision isn't mistaken. Krauss, please. There will definitely come a time when space tourism will become a popular indulgence for the world's richest. He's actually right. Sort of. Because they're working on that, aren't they? And it's only for the world's richest. Yeah, Bezos and his chrome rocket. Hate the rich. And the very first enterprise in that area will probably be monopolized by a single private company. Tell me more, future man. What? That viewpoint is not mistaken. It's true, yeah. There simply is a group of international swindlers who are trying to take advantage of that fact and deceive investors across the world. And I'm trying to tell you that this Sonozaki man was one of them too. Just how gullible are you? Why do you always just accept these suspicious offers without any doubts? You're in the 80s. Take that back. Mr. Sonozaki is a man with a brilliant future ahead of him. There's nothing suspicious about him. Because the dreams he speaks of anticipate the future, they sound crazy to people who can't look that far ahead. A woman like you can't see into the future. Yes, a woman like me can see into the future. But I can see the present. Right in front of me, I can see a pitiful husband who's been taken in by sly, double-crossing swindlers and still trusts them implicitly, even after he's been tricked. Shut up. You don't understand anything about money or business or economics. Don't try to butt in on the job of the husband. All a wife needs to do is the housework. You just keep quiet. Without another word, Natsuhi fell silent, just as Krauss wanted. She was already far beyond anger and sadness, and the emotion that lay on the other side of those was an almost indifferent pity. Krauss had always been frightened of Kinzo since the days of his youth, and had come to subconsciously admire the way his father lived. Without realizing it, he had come to believe that he could only be recognized as a man in his own right if he surpassed his father. However, Kinzo had been a mad genius, the likes of which had never before been seen in the Ushiromiya family's long history. His talent was a gift from heaven, and it definitely wasn't genetic, much less something that could be learned. Natsuhi instructed the servants not to tell anyone about Kinzo's death, and dismissed everyone for the time being, to give the two of them a chance to talk alone. You sure you want to do that, though? I mean... Then, she invited Krauss to her bedroom, and made him tell her everything about their current financial situation. They were things that Natsuhi hadn't been told about under the assumption that a woman had no business knowing. Natsuhi had herself made a point of avoiding this area in the past, thinking that it wasn't a wife's place to intrude on such matters. Yes, join me in my bedroom to talk about what a giant fuck-up you are. That's basically what's happening here. Oh, Krauss. However, this might also have meant that she had been remiss in her duty as a wife to protect her family. The depths of this sin had been made quite clear to Natsuhi. Krauss was probably tired of trying to defend himself. Perhaps because he had gotten a headache, he hid his face and sank into silence. Natsuhi noticed that the water in the electric kettle was boiling and stood up to refill her cup with black tea. And when she touched the cup of black tea, she noticed for the first time. The sound of the cup and saucer clinking together told her that her fingers were shaking. Krauss had built up a large debt to obtain funds for his various projects, and to cover the losses when they failed. Of course, he had put the mansion and property up as collateral. However, doing such a thing above board would have resulted in the mortgage being registered. In other words, there would have been a record that Krauss had put Kinzo's wealth up as collateral to obtain a loan without anyone's permission. Krauss couldn't afford for Kinzo, Eva, and the others to learn of such a thing. Therefore, he had been putting those assets up as collateral using the worst possible method. I signed over the deeds and power of attorney. And what does that mean? What Krauss was saying probably meant that he had, in essence, signed away the rights to their assets. If those assets had been used as collateral for a loan, then Krauss would have had some options under the law. he would have had to deal with the bank, which would have absolutely no compassion, but they would have been able to work something out within the rules set by society. However, signing away the deed and power of attorney was a whole different story. In short, even the mansion they were living in was at risk. If the person holding the deed were to decide to ignore his agreement with Krauss and sell the mansion to a third party right this moment, they would have no recourse whatsoever. Far from using their house as collateral for a loan, this was basically the same as selling it to borrow money. Yeah, his family figured it out. In other words, the moneylenders have the power to make or break the Ushiromiya family as they please. If they were to suddenly sell our house on some slight whim, we'd have to pack our bags and leave right now, wouldn't we? That is technically true. However, all of the people I have agreements with are very reputable. They aren't loan sharks. These are transactions based on trust between economically literate men. I trust them, and they, in turn, trust that by lending me money, I will achieve great success in business and give them massive returns on their investment. I signed over the power of attorney as a sign of good faith and so that they wouldn't have to doubt in the certain success of my enterprises. What happens if I hesitate now? Wouldn't that mean even I have no confidence in my own ventures? If your ventures had been successful, we wouldn't be in debt now, would we? Natsuhi only barely stopped herself from saying it. Father is dead. What happens next? Your debt will be exposed to the light of day and your siblings will hold you responsible? That won't be all. It will probably lead to criminal charges. Criminal charges? Why is that? It's better if you don't know. The point is, we can't allow anyone to find out about this. Krauss looked at the floor shamefully, shaking his head over and over. If it would come to criminal charges, then he must have broken some laws. He had probably been so intent on raising a large sum of money that he hadn't paid any heed to appearances. Krauss had seriously believed that his many projects would definitely succeed and return huge profits. So he had figured that even if he broke a few laws, then he would be able to pay everything back before too long and pretend that the whole thing had never happened. This might have lessened his resistance toward breaking a couple laws. And now, Kinzo's death, the worst possible thing, had occurred. And soon he wouldn't be able to keep it all hidden. One sec. Okay. What will happen to us? There's no need to worry. You may not believe, but conditions are most certainly on the rise now. The value of the city real estate I invested in is rising rapidly. I have a project in progress to consolidate those and construct a massive business tower. This is the most reliable of all my investments so far, and it's proven to be the most successful. However, it will take a little more time for it to bear fruit. It's absolutely certain to do so, but it will not happen immediately. Will the success of that venture be enough to pay back our debts? Of course it will. I'll be able to write off all of the debt I've accumulated so far. So believe me, I only need a little more time. But Father has already passed away. We don't have that kind of time anymore. I know that. That's why. I have to obtain money from somewhere and pay off those debts right now. I need money. That's what it comes down to. Money. A lot of it. Right now. Ugh. Krauss roared and clutched his head, writhing about as if in pain. As Natsuhi watched, several conflicting emotions swirled about in her chest. She felt pity for her husband, but at the same time, she felt he was a fool. And she also felt a mixture of anger and regret towards her own irresponsibility in letting her husband run wild for so long. It should have been clear to him well before today that they were in a very critical situation. And yet, he had irresponsibly waited for this moment to come and was now writhing about. Her husband was so foolish and pitiful. It was easy to feel frustrated with him. However, she was his wife. For a wife to ridicule her husband as a fool would run in conflict with her responsibilities. If he was a fool, then she would have to support him to compensate. However, she didn't have a clue what she was meant to do about this. If there was a massive amount of money like that within easy reach, there was no way that Krauss wouldn't have already laid his hands on it. It would also be easy to tell him to be a man and give up on everything, but that would also run in conflict with her responsibilities. She was Ushiromiya Natsuhi, the woman who had become Krauss's wife and sworn to support him, the new head of the Ushiromiya family, for as long as she lived. She had to somehow help her husband in his efforts to raise money. She understood it logically, but she couldn't suppress the indescribable feeling of dejection that seemed to rise up from the dark depths of her heart. That's right. Dad's hidden gold. 10 tons of gold is worth 20 billion yen. If I had that... That's right. If I had that, everything could be resolved. Natsuhi, that's it. The witch's epitaph. Let's solve that. Let's solve it together. If we can just find the gold, everything will work itself out. That's right, it must be hidden somewhere on this island. If we had that. You're hurting me. Dear. Please, stop this. Krauss, acting as excited as if he'd thought up a perfect, brilliant plan, grasped Natsuhi's upper arm tightly. Natsuhi couldn't help but be dumbfounded. It wasn't just because she'd heard something as fake-sounding as the hidden gold brought up. Krauss usually disparaged the story of the hidden gold, saying that it didn't exist and that it was all a fiction his father had created to borrow a lot of money. Natsuhi was doubly taken aback because of this. I know. Let's have Jessica help us too. Maybe some things can only be solved with the sense of a child. This is a family crisis. All of us have to stick together. Yes, it's just a fanciful little puzzle that Dad created. We should be able to solve it. There's no way we can't solve it. It's the only way. Oh, Natsuhi, this is wonderful. We still have an option left, and right here next to us. The gold is on this island. If we had it, everything would be resolved. Natsuhi, call Jessica here right away. Let's overcome this family crisis as a family. Yes, right now. The gold is on this island. It's right beside us. What? Natsuhi knocked Krauss aside, unable to withstand the pain in the arm he was twisting in his excitement. Krauss tipped over the edge of the bed and flopped pathetically on the floor. Please get a hold of yourself. And please calm down. Do you really think that this Ushiromiya family crisis could be solved by saying something as dreamlike as that? Natsuhi. Please, cool your head off and think of a realistic plan to gather money. I'm going to cool my head off as well. Wait, Natsuhi. Maybe falling over had knocked the sense back into him. Krauss tried to tell Natsuhi to stop, but she just kept walking. Closing the door forcefully, Natsuhi dashed away. Natsuhi ran through the corridor. She didn't want anyone to see her like this, but she ran headlong into Genji. My deepest apologies. Madam, have you been injured? I'm alright. Leave me alone. Certainly. Oh, Genji, what's the state of Father's study? It is just as you left it. Dr. Nanjo is in the parlor. I see. Do you have the key to the study? Yes. Right here. Give it to me. Let me have some time alone with Father. If my husband asks where I am, tell him you don't know. Certainly. After grabbing the key to the study that Genji was holding out to her, Natsuhi rushed up the stairs. She then flew into the study, and finally, she cried out loud. Father, please forgive our foolishness. My husband and I aren't capable of inheriting all that you created. Please. Forgive us for our foolishness and our crimes. And if you can forgive us, please guide the way for us fools. Clinging to Kinzo as he slept in the bed, Natsuhi cried even harder. She kept imagining Kinzo sitting up suddenly and patting her head. No, Father isn't the type of person to pamper. More likely, he'd yell at me to stop being so noisy. However, neither of these imaginations would come true. Because it was an undeniable fact that Kinzo had entered an eternal sleep. But even so, Natsuhi begged the sleeping Kinzo to forgive and help them. It had only been a few hours since his passing. Perhaps his soul was still there, listening to her. Believing this, Natsuhi begged for Kinzo's forgiveness and his help even more earnestly. Noisy one. Don't I always say that I value silence? That voice made Natsuhi jump up in surprise. When she faced in the direction that the voice had come from, she saw Kinzo sitting at the study desk, folding up his reading glasses. Did you get in a fight with Krauss again? Neglecting his wife, that Krauss only inherited my bad traits. Father. What a wretched-looking face. Wash it. Aren't you the wife of the successor to the Ushiromiya family? You mustn't let the servants see you wear such a shameful expression. Yes, Father. My apologies. Natsuhi understood. This was just an illusion, one that Natsuhi had created from her desire to speak with Kinzo and her memories of the man as he once was. No, that's not it. She believed that, just for now, Kinzo's soul had shown itself to her. She was sure that doubting this would cause it to vanish in an instant. It seems that a family crisis has arisen the very instant the headship was passed on. Yes, Father. I wasn't able to support my husband. I'm truly very sorry. The Ushiromiya family is so very cursed. It was in a terrible state when I succeeded the headship too. The hardships you two are suffering are trivial in comparison. Kinzo's succession to the family headship came suddenly. At the time, he was nothing more than a young man from one of the branch families, far separated from the Ushiromiya main family. The main family might have had honor and tradition, but that was of no relevance at all to Kinzo, and he couldn't have cared less. Then, the principal members of the main family were wiped out in the Great Kanto earthquake, along with their businesses. On top of that, there was a complicated antagonism between the members of the family at the time, and the elders were all trying to impose their will on the others in that sinking ship. Because of this, they weren't even able to elect a leader to rebuild the Ushiromiya family. They found common ground by selecting Kinzo, a youth with absolutely no ties to any of the opposing elders, to be the head. So the elders hadn't really entrusted Kinzo with the rebuilding of the Ushiromiya family. Kinzo had been nothing more than their puppet, with his arms and legs being pulled in opposite directions. Yes. I know a lot about your days of suffering, Father. And then the war started. I was already tired of life at that point. I hoped to die on the battlefield, but I wasn't sent to the front lines. However, the state of the war grew worse with every day, and the time for the decisive battle on the Japanese mainland seemed to grow ever closer. As bad as it might sound, I hoped that day would come quickly. It was said that as Kinzo listened to death's approaching footsteps day in and day out, he started cutting his ties with this world one by one. And then, on that day when he had freed himself from all his attachments to life and reached a state of enlightenment, he had a mystical experience. And he met her, the Golden Witch, Beatrice. I made a contract with the witch and was given gold and the power of madness. On that day, the old me died, and a new me possessing the insane power of magic was born. I know. And after the war, you used your ingenious cunning to revive the Ushiromiya family. The now deceased elders who knew Kinzo at the time had whispered to each other that Kinzo must have taken a knock to the head on the battlefield and returned with a different personality. That was how much Kinzo stood out after the war. Whether the story about Kinzo meeting a witch was true or not, there could be no doubt that the extraordinary experience of war had prepared him for death and let him reach a state of enlightenment. Natsuhi must surely have felt that if Kinzo had decided to describe that resulting mystical experience as a meeting with a witch, that wasn't something she could flatly dispute. That's right. You returned from the war, conquered the witch Beatrice, and became the head of the Ushiromiya family in the truest sense. Correct. Before I met Beatrice, I was nothing more than a puppet, and only the head in name. I only became the head after conquering the Golden Witch. Father, will this Golden Witch aid my husband Krauss now that he's the new head? Oh, she will. Assuming that he has truly succeeded the headship. What do you mean by truly succeeded? I mean, it depends on whether he bears the responsibility and pride of the Ushiromiya family head, in the truest sense. Natsuhi, you should understand this. The headship is not inherited by blood. It is inherited through spirit and conviction. Even though Krauss is my eldest son, he cannot be called the true head if he does not possess these things. And even someone other than Krauss would make a splendid new head, so long as that spirit dwelled in their heart. The Golden Witch Beatrice will lend her power to that true head. Isn't that right, Beatrice? Animations. Fuck. That's cool. That's very cool. interesting indeed that he says that the headship doesn't need to be blood. That's all I can say about that. Yep. Yeah, the implication there is basically like anyone can be the head, but that's also kind of indicated with the epitaph, right? Because the epitaph is kind of open to anyone. If you solve it, you get the headship, and it's not limited to family. Yes, just gonna pop this in the chat real quick as a little reminder for y'all. Okay. Yes, thank you for the reminder. And yeah, now I have my own animated little butterfly, and now the game itself has them too. That's cool. When Kinzo called the witch's name, gold butterflies seethed out of every corner of the room. This fantastical scene had an otherworldly beauty to it. It was like standing in the midst of a blizzard of golden flower petals being blown about a rose garden of gold. As Natsuhi stared at the scene in shock, the gold butterflies gathered and formed a human shape. There she is. Then, the witch of the portrait appeared. It's been a while since we've seen her. Indeed. I'm the Ushirobiya family alchemist, the Golden Witch, Beatrice. I'm free to run rampant. I do not listen to anyone's orders. Yeah, it's good old Beatrice. Also, just quickly wanted to point out that the sprites are, I think there's way more variations and they're a bit more detailed than in the other version. So that's cool. I keep seeing like different expressions and stuff that I haven't seen before and just being like, whoa. Yeah, they're very good. Anyway. And there's only one person in the world who can control her. Me. That is why I am qualified to be the Ushiromiya family head. So that pride of yours is what qualifies you to be the head. Pride implies self-confidence and bravery. And it is the embodiment of the insatiable desire to gain the power to match. That is why I control you. It is quite pleasant to watch men who speak of pride as they turn that desire into reality. The quiet man of action is nothing more than an excuse used by the extremely lucky. A true monarch also speaks of what he doesn't have. And he makes sure to turn that arrogance, that pride, into reality. If one is to control me, they must possess that monarch's pride. Do you understand, Natsuhi? A true monarch fears no hardship. They declare that they will overcome anything without fail, even if they haven't yet figured out how. This gives hope to the weak people. They gather, revere the monarch, and swear to assist him. That is where power is gained and his word is carried out. Engrave that into your heart. Yes, Father. Natsuhi understood. Through this mystical experience, Kinzo was teaching her the attitude required to overcome hardship, even after his own death. Feeling a warm sensation rise up in her chest, she let the valuable words Kinzo had given her echo through her mind over and over. A true monarch, in other words, The true head of the Ushinomiya family was not to fear hardship. They had to believe that they could overcome any hardship. If they could not believe themselves capable, then there was no reason why they would be. Natsuhi suddenly felt very ashamed of the way she had come into this room, sobbing and asking Kinzo what to do. Hey Lulu, welcome to the stream. How are you doing? I was foolish. Of course, there's no time for crying when an Ushinomiya family crisis is upon us. And now that we have inherited the Ushinomiya family from you, Father, we must protect its honor, no matter what. Oh, even though you can't even draw a blueprint on how to repay Krauss's debts. As Beatrice laughed unpleasantly. No, that wasn't it. She was testing Natsuhi to see whether she possessed the mental readiness to be a true monarch. Natsuhi didn't hesitate anymore. She answered clearly, gazing into Beatrice's eyes. Yes. At this moment, I have not yet discovered the method that we should pursue. However, my husband is the new head of the Ushinomiya family, and I am a supporting wife. So in my husband's place, I will proclaim it. Let us hear it. Ushinomiya Krauss and Natsuhi will definitely overcome these trials and protect the honor of the Ushinomiya family. You have nothing to worry about, Father. You do know the scope of Krauss's debt, as well as the disastrous state things are in. Yes. Things could hardly be worse. We could even be ordered to leave this mansion tomorrow and we wouldn't be able to refuse. Once the distribution of the inheritance comes up, his relatives might even file a criminal complaint against us. However, there's no need to worry. We will repay all of the debts before then and restore our honor. As she stood at attention with a resolute attitude, Natsuhi proclaimed this clearly, with Ushinomiya Kinzo and Beatrice as witnesses. For a while, they remained silent, as though weighing Natsuhi's resolve. Then Kinzo chuckled and turned away. How vexing. Why couldn't this person have been my son? The very fact that a woman with such a disposition married your son is another sign of your great luck. Beatrice, this is my final order. Now that you are no longer the head, I am not obligated to obey your orders. In that case, obey the orders of the new Ushinomiya family head. You are no longer the head, and Krauss is not yet the head. Whom are you suggesting that I serve? I will leave that to you. It is up to you to decide who is qualified to succeed the Ushinomiya family head, and who is fitting to bear the mark of the one-winged eagle. You will be the witness. You will be witness. I refuse. I won't listen to the orders of a man who isn't the head. No, this is different. This is a will. The last order that the head left behind for you. Then it seems I will have to obey. What a good friend I am. I think not. You're only doing this because it caught your interest. I can't hide anything from you, can I? Natsuhi. Yes, Father. Go, and overcome your hardship. Yes. To Natsuhi, that might have been nothing more than a simple response. But to Kinzo and Beatrice, it seemed to carry much greater significance. Beatrice nodded deeply, and with emotion as elegant as her dress, she bowed deeply before Natsuhi. The Ushinomiya family alchemist The Golden Witch Beatrice, right here. I will give you my aid so that the Ushinomiya family can overcome crisis once again. Thank you. I will need your power. We will most certainly overcome these trials. I will not hold back on my support for your cause, but there is something I must warn you about beforehand. I understand that your troubles now could be solved if I were to bestow a vast quantity of gold again, like I did when I saved Kinzo from his crisis. However, that is something I cannot do. I see. Sorry, Natsuhi. The contract for Beatrice's gold stated that it cannot be inherited. It was agreed that it could only be passed on to another if that person solves the witch's epitaph. The gold is sealed away by the epitaph. As long as that is not solved, I cannot give you the magic of gold. I understand. Then I shall search for another method by which we can save ourselves from this crisis. My husband said that his plan would take time, but he also said it would definitely be sufficient to repay our debts. If we can buy enough time for that to happen, we will be able to overcome this trial. Good, Natsuhi. Continue. But Kinzo is already dead. The doctor and servants are preparing his funeral, and you will be contacting the family members about it. The window of opportunity for you to raise money will be closed by your own hand. How charming is a guillotine where you lower the blade yourself? Ah. Natsuhi gasped and looked up at the ceiling. There wasn't actually anything there. But even so, Natsuhi had found something. So, the magical power has descended. Natsuhi, have you made up your mind? What magic of miracles do you desire from me? All of those who had witnessed Kinzo's corpse were once again gathered in the study. Krauss was still very unsettled and clutching at his head. Genji was as expressionless as ever. Nanjo and Kumasawa wore bewildered expressions on their faces. But in stark contrast to all of them, Natsuhi's expression was resolute. Dear, let me ask you one more time. Your plan for raising money is absolutely certain. Yes. Give it a year. No, just half a year, and it will certainly bear fruit. But it's just impossible to hope for anything right this second. Then we will wait. But you said it yourself. Dad is already dead. Father hasn't passed away. As you can see, he's as healthy as ever. When Natsuhi said this, everyone looked up instantly, startled. Because they immediately understood what those words meant. However, Krauss alone didn't get it right away and had to ask. What do you mean by that? Dad is right there and he's... Her face is like, my fucking god, this idiot. I am married to a fool. You don't know how she ended up with Krauss? I think they went over that briefly. It was basically sort of an arranged marriage type of deal. So it wasn't exactly voluntary, shall we say. So that's how that happened, because wow, he does not deserve her. Yeah, she's so devoted. It's alright. It's bleeding through, right? But I like her a lot. You want to smooch? Listen, you would 100% be. I mean, there's no comparison. Krauss is not worthy, and you would be. That's what I mean. And also just to be clear about kind of what this flashback is. This isn't the game board, right? This is before the game board starts. So you can consider this to happen in on every game board. This is what goes down. So she's, you know, being a badass and trying to keep things together behind the scenes while her husband fucks up everything. Yeah, this is pre-game board. Because this is 2 years ago. Yeah, this is reality. I'll say it again. Father is still in good health. He's busy with his research, so he'll be even less able to relieve his study than usual. Because of this, we must handle all external affairs ourselves, so that Father can devote himself to his research without being burdened by meaningless tasks. In short, nothing will change from the way things have been up until now. Do you understand, Genji? Yes. The furniture of the one-winged eagle will continue to serve the master. Kumasawa. And you, Dr. Nanjo. Do you understand what I'm saying? Oh, Is this really what you want to do, Natsuhi-san? It may be true that Father passed away today, but if everyone here right now believes, we can use magic to revive Father. It's impossible, madam. That's just too much. The time of death will be determined during the autopsy. We can't stop it from looking suspicious. Father will not pass away, so there will be no reason for there to be an autopsy. Of course, she wasn't planning to make Kinzo live forever. The fake life given to Kinzo would only last until Krauss could repay his debts. After that, Kinzo's soul would finally be able to sleep in peace. Nanjo repeated himself that the time of death would be discovered during the autopsy, but Natsuhi said again that this wouldn't be a problem. Father will not pass away by being reported dead. I see. He'll be reported missing. After clapping his hands together, Krauss stood up, shaking his fists. Yes. Once we've managed to pay back the debt and finish the preparations to lay Father to rest, we will then announce that Father has disappeared. Rokanjima's vast, uncultivated forest was the perfect place to stage a disappearance. One day, Kinzo would go out to the forest for a walk, and never return. They would search for him without success, and then be forced to report his disappearance. If he disappears, we can file a report of his death even without a corpse. In other words, we can conceal the time of death. What do you think, Dr. Nanjo? There won't be any problems this way. Yes, I can see the logic, but... Are you sure about this, madam? Yes, if all of us can keep quiet, then perhaps we could keep it a secret that the master has passed away. But there are so many ways that one of us could slip up and allow someone to find out. Kumasawa, keep your voice down. Have you forgotten that Father is sleeping right over there? Are you trying to wake him? it isn't a corpse. Kinzo is sleeping. As Natsuhi said that, Kinzo lay quietly on the bed, as though there was nothing at all odd about her words. Come, try to remember. What form did you have? What sort of life did you enjoy? I love the butterflies. Once again, a storm of gold butterflies started to swirl, covering Kinzo's cold body. Then, after the butterflies exploded into fine gold powder and disappeared, just like those fairy tales that have been told over and over since long ago, Kinzo slowly opened his eyes and sat up. Father! Natsuhi, let me first make one thing clear. I did not coax you into doing this because I have an attachment to life. You liar. Don't tell me you didn't anticipate this at least a little. How does it feel, Kinzo? How's your body? It isn't bad, but it feels somewhat like being in a dream. I feel light. A being not permitted to remain in this world still remains here. You'll have to accept a little discomfort. Is your body truly alright? Are you really alright? Actually, this feels quite pleasant. If this is what the world after death feels like, playing the part of a ghost might not be so bad. How's this, Natsuhi? Kinzo has revived. That means a funeral is unnecessary. Your hardship has been resolved. Beatrice. As Natsuhi tried to find words of gratitude, Beatrice waggled her index finger and spoke. There's no need for thanks. A ruler should be proud. I do not pay heed to requests, but I do follow orders. I'll say it even so. Thank you. This way, you've bought some time for my husband. We will handle the rest. Be warned, Natsuhi. Kinzo may have revived, but that is not an eternal thing. It will only continue as long as my magic does. Be warned that the anti-magic toxin might destroy the magic. You must understand the laws of magic correctly and work hard to maintain it. I can show you a miracle, but it is your role to grasp it and hold it together. Of course. We won't neglect the miracle you have given us. Very good. I see. It seems masters do not need to be changed. Nope. It seems masters do need to be changed every once in a while. Just like floor mats. I like it. I shall serve you. Ushinomiya Natsuhi. I'm the Ushinomiya family alchemist, the Golden Witch, Beatrice. Call my name whenever you wish. I shall then appear and grant you a miracle. Thank you. I am Ushinomiya Natsuhi. I will employ you to protect the honor of the Ushinomiya family. Aw, they're friends. I do really like them together. The family conference of the previous year, October 5th, 1985. Yeah, she Natsuhi's a gem. She just is, okay. The rose garden was truly splendid this year. The roses were blooming like crazy, as though they were competing with each other. In that rose garden, Kinzo, Kanon, and Natsuhi could be seen. Once again, the flowers have grown wonderfully this year. It must be the result of your care. Thank you very much. The weather just happened to be good this year. Thanks to your care, the garden is even more beautiful than usual. Good work. Thank you very much. If today weren't so special, we might have been able to admire the roses while enjoying some black tea. Kinzo shrugged. Today was the family conference. When it came to the other siblings' businesses, they hadn't heard anything good. On the contrary, those siblings probably planned to turn the conversation to the topic of Kinzo's remaining life, and hold a quiet feud over the inheritance. Those people are quite unpleasant. By the way, what about Krauss? Is that debt repayment plan of his proceeding well? It really does seem to be a realistic plan. However, the scale of the plan appears to be quite large, and it doesn't seem to be bearing fruit as well as he expected. If possible, I hope that something could be done before today's family conference. Yes. My apologies. Are you sure that's alright, Kinzo? Casually walking around in a place like that? How had she gotten up there? Well, it's pretty pointless to wonder about that sort of thing when you're dealing with a witch. Beatrice was casually sitting on the roof of the arbor, almost as though she had been basking in the sun. Those relatives are like a massive lump of the anti-magic toxin, and they'll be intruding on us. If you bump into them, your soul will evaporate in an instant. I'm already dead. Even evaporating would be no detriment. We can't have that happen. Please, for the sake of the Ushinomiya family, lend us your strength just a little longer. Natsuhi, it seems that the boat with the relatives on it has left the harbor. It might be a good idea to end your walk soon. Is that so? Thank you. Please return to the study, Father. Just great. A shame that I must go back when the weather is so perfect. Don't crumble, Kinzo. Right now, you are nothing more than a ghost that I gave life to. It'll be troublesome for both me and Natsuhi if you're scattered away by the toxin. Just be a good boy, shut yourself away in the study, and put a blanket over yourself or something. Just being given the chance to enjoy the roses even after death makes me extremely fortunate. I understand. I shall return to the study. But I would like some black tea. Kano, tell Genji to bring me some. Some Marco Polo would be nice today. Certainly. Then let's go our separate ways. Natsuhi, I want you to conduct the family's conference splendidly without me. Of course, Father. You can't say it in front of them, but my husband is already the Ushinomiya family head, and I will do all I can to see that I don't embarrass him as his wife. Compared to Krauss, who's had a stomachache since this morning, you are so very composed, Natsuhi. My son is quite hopeless. Reading is hard. My son... My husband is talented in his own way. Supporting him when he's weak is my duty as his wife, where he's weak. Which is everywhere, girl. Give it your best. I will make sure to stay shut away so that I don't get in the way of this farce. Kano, go with Father to the study, and then have Genji serve some black tea. I'm not so senile that I need your help to stand up. Here I go. Refusing Kanon's attempt to lend him a hand, Kinzo rose from the flower bed he had been sitting on. The retired head left everything in Natsuhi's hands and returned to the study at a gentle pace. You're looking well. You possess a sense of dignity similar to Kinzo's deceased wife. On the off chance that the anti-magic toxin does get to father, will the magic dissolve in an instant? Yes, in the blink of an eye. I can simply erase my form if necessary. But if someone already dead, such as Kinzo, loses his form, he will be blown away by the winds of the sun and disappear like dust in a matter of seconds. You must take care. Yes, I understand. You might have talent as a witch. The anti-magic toxin has been building up in your system over the years, and yet you are still able to understand magic. If you and I had met during our youth, you might have become a powerful witch by now. I'm Hironori Krauss' wife, the head's wife. I would become even a witch or a demon to protect his honor. I'm deeply grateful for the power of your magic. I wouldn't have been able to protect the honor of the Hironori family without you. Let's discuss that at another time. I'd like to enjoy it with just the two of us, women drinking tea. A friend of mine who sent... A friend of mine who went to Sri Lanka sent me some black tea with a wonderful rose fragrance. Oh. You mean Dimbala? That isn't bad. Then you should also have patis on the side. I don't know how to pronounce that, sorry. You must serve me some as a reward if I manage to trick everyone for the whole upcoming family conference. Promise me now. Understood. I promise. Then, I'll see you later. Later it is. Oh, it's spicy food? Interesting. The witch made her body crumble into the rustling winds, became gold flower petals, and scattered into thin air. Natsuhi watched her go, then turned on her heels and headed for the mansion. After that, there was no one left in the rose garden. Except... Alright then, it's break time. Any complaints about how things have gone so far? Not at all. If you gotta pee, why don't you just go and do it? What a rude thing to say! Kinzo is already dead, remember? But he's walking around and talking, isn't he? Doesn't that mean this is magic? Well, I doubt this move would work on you after all this time, Burn. I guess we're on the game board after all. But it's 2 years ago. Perhaps I was wrong. I guess we'll find out later on. Well, I doubt this move would work on you after all this time, Burn. But what about you, Battler? Isn't this weird? Don't you have to accept the existence of the magic that revived Kinzo? If you're trying to imitate Beato, stop it right now, because it's pissing me off. Figured it out? Then, come on. How are you gonna answer, Battler? Kinzo was just out for a stroll. Why don't you do what you usually do and start holding your head crying, "This doesn't make any sense"? Come on, use that old "it's no goddamn good at all" catchphrase and let me hear your classic crazy counter-argument. There's no way that a human who's supposed to be dead could be walking around, right? Is this all because of some unknown virus called the Rokkenjima syndrome, which causes mass delusions? Or do the scales of a mysterious form of butterfly that only lives on Rokkenjima happen to be hallucinogenic? Or is it all because a mysterious secret organization called Yamainu made an as-of-yet undiscovered drug called Puru Pikopuyo, which causes mass delusions? Oh my god, Lambda, please. Let me hear tons of this wonderful crap. Just shut up. This isn't even a problem. Grandfather is dead at this point in time. There's no way he exists. The only reason everything's behaving as though he actually exists is because that's the lie Aunt Natsuhi's creating in an attempt to hide Grandfather's death and trick her way through the family conference. Oh? It's Natsuhi's lie. You can revive the dead by lying. Wouldn't that make it Natsuhi's magic? Look at our boy, he's learning. This world is like a brown tube before you've looked in it. It's the world of the cat box before you open it. As long as Aunt Natsuhi says that she took a walk with Grandfather, and as long as no one can confirm that that's a lie, it's possible to display Aunt Natsuhi's taking a walk in the rose garden with Grandfather as Natsuhi's reality. That means it's possible for Grandfather to appear. Clap, clap, clap. That extremely unflattering applause was coming from Burncastle. Bravo. You're much calmer without Beato around. Aren't we all, though? Quiet. You shut up, too. Wait a second, Battler. According to your theory, sure, it might really be possible for Kinzo to appear if Natsuhi's the only person there. If Natsuhi claims to have observed Kinzo in a world with no one except Natsuhi in it, then no one can deny it, right? But Kanon was in the same place, and he was also looking at Kinzo, right? How would you explain that? That's no problem at all. Kanon-kun is a servant who works for the Ushiromiya family. Aunt Natsuhi probably ordered him to keep to her story so that she can hide Grandfather's death. This means that just like Aunt Natsuhi, Kanon can see Grandfather even though Grandfather isn't supposed to exist. Too bad, Lambda. Battler isn't going to fall for that kind of child's play anymore. Seems so. Well, this is nothing more than an opening before the game. Like an aperitif before a meal. An appetizer at a bar. Green tea at a sushi restaurant. Shut up. So you aren't gonna get anywhere unless I say it again in blue text? Looks like it. Would you mind? The reason Grandfather is strolling around like nothing happened, even though he's already dead, is that people who want to make it seem as though he's alive created an illusion of him. Everyone with the same intention can share that illusion. Then, they talk as though Grandfather actually exists and was with them until a second ago. That's why he's strolling around like it's perfectly natural. Because of this, the illusion of Grandfather is unable to appear in front of people who aren't in on this with Aunt Natsuhi. That's why they needed to set it up so that he would shut himself away in his study and not come out. In the games before now, Grandfather was always shut away in his study. We never met him directly. However, there were some people who spoke in a way that made it seem like he was locked up in his study in a bad mood, and who claimed to have met him only a short while ago. We blindly accepted that, and believed that Grandfather was in the study. That's why it was possible for an illusion of Grandfather to exist in the study. That's right. In the games before now, the only people who met Grandfather were Uncle Krauss, Aunt Natsuhi, and the servants. Because they all stuck to the same story, an illusion of grandfather was able to exist on this island, making it seem like he was alive. You were even kind enough to show me a scene at the beginning of this game, about Natsuhi convincing Dr. Nanjo and the rest to cover up grandfather's death. I'm not gonna fall for this kind of cheap trick now. Not bad. But I was hoping for the unknown drug Puru Puru Pico Puyo. There's no way he'd say something so ridiculous, right? After all, supposing that such a thing exists would be just as bad as surrendering to the fantasy genre. Whether it's a virus or a drug or an illness, anything that hasn't been discovered yet is in violation of Nox's fourth commandment. What do you mean, fourth commandment? Nox's fourth. It is forbidden for unknown drugs or obscure scientific devices to be used. It's a rule that these cannot be used for murder. What? I don't know what world you've been living in, but unknown drug X and unknown scientific device X are the best kind of weapons to use when fighting against a witch. Yes, those. They all violate the rules of proper mystery stories. Supposing an unknown virus, an unknown drug, an unknown sickness, or an unknown X was used puts it totally in the fantasy genre. My condolences. If that was your theory, then it's game over for you. Hey, what are you talking about? You think you've been fighting in direct opposition to Beato, but that's not actually true. You haven't been in direct opposition. You've been fighting from a diagonal angle. All this playing detective you've done hasn't been fantasy versus mystery. It's only been fantasy versus anti-fantasy. I don't have a clue what you're talking about. But there's one thing I do get. It sounds like you're saying there's something wrong with the way I've been fighting. We are fighting to kill the fantasy known as the witch illusion. That means interpreting this tale as a proper mystery. In other words, from the very start, we have to forget about any and all elements that would violate the taboos of the mystery genre. Forget about them? For example, several locked room murders have occurred in the games before now, right? Yeah. At every single crime scene, to make sure there are no hidden doors. You've been enthusiastically checking with Beato, haven't you? Weaving a flashy bunch of red truths all together all over the place. Almost as though that itself was the battle. I call that a waste of time. After all, it's clearly specified by Nox's third commandment. It is forbidden for hidden passages to exist. In the mystery genre, hidden passages mustn't exist. So in trying to interpret everything as a proper mystery, having a debate over whether there are hidden doors or not is a defeat from the beginning, don't you see? After all, there aren't any. As soon as you suspect that they might exist, then it's already game over for you. In other words, the way you assume that you can't use reason just because it hasn't been proven that hidden doors don't exist at the crime scene makes you simply naive and a failure at mysteries. You've already lost once you start thinking that. You're trying to interpret everything within the bounds of the mystery genre, right? Then you've got to follow its conventions. That's how it is. Hidden doors must not exist at any of the crime scenes. That means anything you do to try and check whether they exist or not is a waste of time. I think I know what you're talking about. I've heard about it somewhere. Is this like the 10 basic rules for mystery novels or something?
Yeah, that's right. They're the 10 witch-piercing wedges brandished by Nox, the peerless archbishop of witch hunting. Those are the true weapons with which to fight and defeat the fantasy known as the witch illusion head-on. Just like you were, bringing in such annoying weapons. They're the fantasy side's worst enemies.
So you denied the existence of hidden doors right from the start, without even investigating the crime scene. That's what sounds like fantasy to me.
Lambda, who's in charge of the witch side, is fantasy. I'm the one who's fighting her. Mystery. What are you? The most you can do is repeatedly dodge and deny fantasy, which makes you merely anti-fantasy. You're opposed to absolutely everything, but you can make no counter-proposals. You're like a politician from some government.
Ouch. Shut up. I didn't come here to speak gibberish with you two. Just get on with the story. Oh boy. The voice was like, I'm not gonna let you finish that sentence. Yeah, there's a great deal of overlap in fandom for the Ace Attorney series and Umineko. Unsurprisingly. Yes. Water is good for you. And for my throat specifically. In fact, I'm gonna drink some more. Okay.
Quiet down. That sleeping princess behind you is suffering, you know?
When he turned around, he saw Bezo's living corpse resting in a chair. However, sweat glistened all over her body, and it felt like she was breathing a little harder than normal. She looked as though she was suffering from a high fever. Beato, what's wrong? Are you okay?
What do you mean, okay? You sure do say some strange things. You're fighting to kill that girl. We've rewound this 5th game for your benefit. But where we're at right now, Burns got courted me pretty good and she's about to break through the witch illusion. That girl's existence has been almost completely denied. It's only natural that she's suffering. Even just now, you smashed a witch illusion by saying there was no way Ginzo existed. This is the proof that your attack reached Beato. This agony of hers. I tried to at least wipe away the sweat on Beato's forehead with a handkerchief. It's true I promised Beato that I'd let her die, but that was supposed to be peacefully. I wasn't planning to make her suffer first. My goal isn't to make the sleeping Beato suffer like this before killing her. As if the complicated feelings inside me were plain as day to them, the two witches grinned together. Damn it, Aniki. Dad overheard because you kept yelling about the inheritance. It isn't my fault. How was I supposed to know? He just happened to be in the corridor and overheard. It was an unlucky coincidence. Could you two give it a rest? Just call it our bad luck this time and give it up.
If you leave a man alone, his mood will pop right back to normal.
Hopefully Father's feelings weren't hurt so much that he writes up some strange will. The relative sighed deeply and fell into silence. Hey, Maria, no jumping around. What if Anja-chan trips over?
Sorry to keep you waiting. The boat is ready. Alright, let's go. Won't get anywhere by complaining now.
We eagerly await your return to this island. Natsuhi was sitting on a bench in the rose garden, looking completely worn out. However, when she noticed that Kanon and Kumasawa were coming back, she immediately sat up straight, regaining the dignity of the head's wife. Did the boat leave? Yes. It departed just a minute ago. I see. Good job seeing them off. What is my husband doing? He returned to his room a short while ago. He is resting. Since the previous day, Krauss had been almost overwhelmed by anxiety over the thought that Kinzo's death might be discovered. When the family conference ended, his weariness must have suddenly gotten a hold of him. However, the way he had refused to let even a sliver of his true intention slip out, and the manner in which he had managed to act as though everything was normal, showed that Krauss's nerve was nothing to sneeze at. How was it? Did they seem to notice anything suspicious about Father?
Nope. Eva-sama in particular was raising quite the racket about the master overhearing her talking about the inheritance, right? Wasn't her panicking just priceless?
Yes. She was quite shaken up. Kumasawa, you really are quite an actress. All that panic in the corridor made it seem like Father really was there. Kumasawa is quite talented at that sort of thing.
Oh, come now. I don't deserve such praise. Ho 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 ho.
I will have to make it very clear to Genji not to believe you easily when you call in sick.
Now that's just too harsh, madam. Ho 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 ho.
You really did a good job. As promised, both of you, as well as Genji and Shannon, will be reimbursed for the time off you sacrificed over the past month, and will receive 5 days of additional pay. This bonus is a secret. Speak with Genji when you collect your pay to ensure that the other servants don't find out.
Don't you worry, we understand. Don't we?
Kumasawa-san, your voice is too loud.
Oh, how very careless of me. Ho 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 ho.
Yes, we should be careful. Let's leave it at that for the time being. All of you, please return to your regular duties. Oh, that's right. I had Goro prepare some special tea. Tell him to serve it.
How can the women of this game be so beautiful? I don't know, but they are. Maybe it's magic. It's probably magic.
Natsuhi let them know that she wanted to be left alone for a while, so that she could drink some black tea in the rose garden. That black tea, carried all the way to the bench, was the Sri Lankan tea dimbala that she had promised Beato, along with pati.
I'm gonna assume that that's how it's pronounced. If I'm wrong, too bad. Too bad for me.
And sitting on either side of it, the wife of the head and her witch could be seen, both of them staring at it curiously. So, this is pati. I just assumed it would be some kind of baked sweet.
Too bad for me. Natsuhi hadn't thought for a moment that it would have a curry-like spicy flavor, and had started coughing after putting it in her mouth. To describe it in Japanese terms, it was like aga gyoza stuffed with mashed, curry-flavored potatoes. And gyoza are dumplings, fried dumplings. It's nice to have the little bits of explanation text in there. As a savory snack, it would probably be pretty popular with the kids. However, it was something of a shock to Natsuhi, who had expected that a treat to go with tea would be something sweet. Didn't you know? You cannot have dimbula without this. Whereas another black tea, it would be cookies. Oh, but chocolate is good too. With Japanese tea, sweet bean jelly is the tradition, although salted konbu also works. With Chinese tea, you have xiaolongbao, Chinese dumplings. Though I like mooncakes as well. I'm surprised. You know a lot about culture, don't you? Well, I haven't been living 1,000 years for nothing. I've sampled all the finest teas from around the world. Perhaps you could call me a tea traveler. That does seem like it would be a wonderful way to travel the world. Before today, I never knew that one could enjoy tea like this. I will treasure this experience. I cannot leave Rokkenjima. This is the only way I can travel. What about you? I'm sure you've traveled the world in luxury as the wife of a rich man should. Before Jessica was born, my husband took me to many countries. Before marrying, I never once traveled overseas, so each time was a fresh and new experience. Sounds like you were also born into a very restrictive household. It was strict, but they gave me a wonderful upbringing. It would be rude to my father and mother to call that restricted. That tells me eloquently that it was. Krauss might have pitied Natsuhi, or he might have wanted to take her away from the restrictive Ushiromiya family for a little bit and let her rest. Or he might have simply wanted to take his wife around countries he knew well and show off everything he knew. Unlike my father, my husband likes countries in Asia. Hong Kong, Taiwan, Korea, Thailand. I think we also went to Malaysia. That Krauss, was he trying to rebel against Kinzo's Western obsession? But Asia is good too. The Japanese are strongly influenced by the West. When they think of foreign countries, only Western ones come to mind. But the East exists as well. I myself knew a few things about the West, but I knew very little about the Orient. I seem to recall my husband making fun of me now and then during our travels. As Natsuhi grumbled that they had all been very tiring trips, Beato secretly peeked into her heart. The joy that is Marmite. Oh, art! Oh, I remember what's coming up. I need water for this. Now, listen. This is called an Eureka nut. It's a popular luxury food item around here. There's so many languages in this specific episode. It looked like a small, round, gourd-like nut that had been split open, with a slice of cucumber wedged in it. At a glance, it looked as though it would probably taste like pickles. I see. So I just bite it here? As she tried to bite the one her husband was holding, he suddenly moved it away. It felt kind of embarrassing, like she was a fish who took the bait. Whoa, wait up. You have to eat it a certain way. Yes, you are supposed to bite it. Bite it. Chew it. But don't eat it.
Huh? Even though you bite and chew it, you can't eat it.
Yes. Bite and chew. Don't eat. And don't drink the juice. It'll make your stomach hurt.
What are you feeding your wife? I don't understand. Why would you eat something like that?
Think of it as something like gum. Chew it and enjoy the flavor. Spit the juice and the scraps you've chewed off into a paper cup like this.
Dear, the inside of your mouth is bright red. Wipe it off, wipe it off. Ugh.
The handkerchief that she had wiped Krauss's mouth with, a favorite of hers, also had bright red marks on it now. Something that's poisonous if eaten or drunk, and it makes the inside of your mouth so bright red. And on top of that, having to spit something out after you've put it in your mouth? How indecent. Thinking this, Natsuhi firmly refused what Krauss was offering her.
No. Thank you, but no.
This is a cross-cultural experience. What's the point of traveling if we don't do things that can only be done here? Krauss kept chewing, ignoring the fact that even his lips were being colored bright red. Father likes these too. He must have ordered some long ago because he used to chew away at them on the mansion's terrace. Although he seems to have stopped ever since you came here. Come on. Father, the person you respect even more than me, chewed these all the time. Come on. Don't hold back, try it.
No. Stop it. Dear.
When he was traveling the world, Krauss had the innocence of a child. He wouldn't even conceal his jealousy of the respect Natsuhi normally gave Kinzo. Just being able to see that side of her husband made traveling all the way to another country worthwhile. Krauss kept on urging her to bite it, but Natsuhi, undaunted, ran from place to place and finally yelled at him that he was being too pushy. Accurate. That would be some amazing art of him with the red lips. Also, what's Bovril? I've never heard of that. Krauss was miffed for most of the bus ride. What a child to let something like this get him down. Natsuhi thought, astounded. Then, a native tour guide on the bus took out one of those areca nuts and started explaining about it. He talked about how it had been a beloved luxury item in these parts since ancient times, similar to tobacco. About how its popularity was declining because young people were starting to take a dislike to it, just like Natsuhi. And about how it was treated as a good luck charm in this area, and was known as a symbol for couples. She looked at her husband's face. He turned away abruptly, but it looked like his cheeks had gotten a little red. If only he just said something. That was surprisingly cute. Wait. Marmite soup? Okay. I'm learning so much today. Thank you for sharing. No, but seriously, thank you for answering my question. And then you leaned on your husband and held his hand, I'll bet. What the heck? You and your husband share a pretty pure love, don't you? Did you get all fired up? You know, like that night? Red-faced and avoiding Beato's eye, Natsuhi tried to hide her embarrassment by stuffing the pâté whole into her mouth, chewing with her cheeks puffed out like a blowfish. Beato said that there was nothing better than this to go with tea, and nodded several times, a broad smile on her face. No, Lulu, you don't have to cover your eyes. Don't worry. I would have put a content warning in if that was the case. Speaking of, a little reminder. Of course, that was when we were newlyweds. Right now, I cannot even leave Tokanjima. I'm a bird in a cage. Well, it's the same for me. I have died more than once, and still I can't escape Tokanjima. I'm a bird in a cage just as you are. I don't know much about you, and I won't pry. However, I can imagine that the circumstances you're under are not ones I can make light of. I have no desire to act like the chief prisoner here. Let's be friendly as fellow birds in this cage. I've taken a liking to you. Really? Thank you. The instructions and orders you gave the servants for this family conference were superb. You thought of everything, from where Kinzo would be and when, to what he did and what he left behind. Yet you put it all together splendidly without any contradictions. That detailed written plan of yours had the same beauty as a high-level magic circle. To make it look like Kinzo actually existed and was living life his own way. She had written his schedule for the day down to the finest detail, and made the servants follow it to the letter. Who did he meet? When and where did he meet them? And what did he leave with them? What was he doing? When and where was he doing it? And what did he change? As a result, even though the relatives hadn't seen Kinzo even once, they never suspected in the slightest that he hadn't been there. Eva and the rest truly believed that their conversation about the inheritance had been overheard by Kinzo as he happened to walk through the hall, and that it had sent him into a rage. Everything had gone just as Natsuhi's plan had predicted, down to the finest detail. And the coordination between the two of them and the servants had also been spectacularly intricate. We couldn't afford to have the secret found out under any circumstances. That's why I made such a thorough plan. Your willpower and attention to detail summon success with certainty. As a witch, it seems that you're in Lady Lamtadelta's camp. At your current level, as soon as you become self-aware of that as magic, you will be worthy of calling yourself a witch apprentice. If you called something like that magic, then that would make Kumasawa the witch of feigned illnesses. She only calls us to say she's taking the day off because of her bad back on the busy days. Like every year's family conference. Oh no, Kumasawa's completely different. She's a witch of a much, much higher level. If you knew what she really was, it'd shock you. That's true. That's it. Kumasawa gets called out for sure. What bad luck on her part that she just happened to be there on the day that Kinzo died. Otherwise she could have just dodged so much responsibility. Watching these two have their pleasant chat was another pair with steam rising from their black tea. However, the second pair was in a world that the first couldn't see, where golden roses bloomed. Donovan was kind enough to make us some of that Dimula tea too. It felt as though Beato muttered something. For the first time, it felt as though she had been able to communicate something. Surely she had taken an interest in the black tea and felt like drinking it. Thinking this, Ballard took Beato's cup and her hand and made her grip the cup, Beata's eyes trembled sadly, and her fingers shook, almost as though she couldn't even move her fingers as she wanted to, and was mourning the fact that she could no longer even enjoy the tea she had once loved without assistance. That was how she looked. So Battler rested his hand on Beato's, softly took hold of the teacup, and lifted it to her lips. Then, though it was only a single mouthful, Beato sipped. The days in which they had been in a killing fest with red swords and blue wedges already seemed like the distant past. Now, not only was Beato unable to do that, it was even difficult for her to make her body do as she pleased. Even just drinking a mouthful of black tea like this was hard. How is it? That rose aroma makes for a great black tea. Do you like it? Of course, Beato didn't respond. What happened to you? This is another strategy, right? You're pretending to be in a slump so you can shock me later. If that's what you're after, the same trick won't work again, so give it a rest. If you keep acting like that, even I'll start to feel out of whack. Hey, isn't it about time for you to start laughing loudly saying, "Caught you, dumbass," or something? Any kind of joke stops being funny if you use it too much. Especially if it's a rehash. Laugh. Just like you're cackling over there as you drink with Natsuhi. Silence. Can't you at least grin? Never again. This child will never laugh again. Those sudden words were exceedingly cruel. How can you say that for sure? Quit trying to steal away Beato's right to laugh.
Oh, should I say it in red then?
I shook my head furiously. Then, with an expression that didn't reveal her thoughts in the slightest, Berncastle spoke while looking at Beato's face. And I didn't understand the word she used in the slightest.
Congratulations.
For what?
Beato is like this as a result of your victory.
What are you talking about?
You said something interesting in a previous game. You said that this would be eternal torture where you both torment each other. That was right. It was torture for Beato as well. And you won that torture game. That's why Beata's soul was killed, and why she became a doll-like corpse.
Are you saying that I did this to Beato?
The battle ends when one of you loses the will to try and win. As far as the battle between you and Beato goes, the conclusion was already reached last time. Well, it probably happened without you noticing though.
In that case, why hasn't the game ended when I've already won? Why is this game still continuing?
The shackle attached to that girl's ankle. That's a rule Lambda made.
Even if Beatrice tries to yield, or gets discouraged, or gives up, she isn't capable of stepping down from the game. That's the rule. Or maybe it's a curse.
Some time ago, when it looked like you were going to give in, I gave you my support. Though you probably couldn't perceive it, I assisted you by making sure that you would receive hints and things would go your way. That's why you're able to be here now. Do you remember how I helped you? Burncastle stared at me. It's true I wasn't aware of it, but maybe it was true that she had helped me. In the same way, Lambda is supporting Beato. And this time, it's Beato who's on the verge of giving in. So to make sure that she doesn't, this time it's Lambda who's been giving her support. That's what the shackle is. By refusing to let her resign, she saved Beato within the game. How is this saving her? This game was made with only two ways for it to end. Either one side accepts defeat and resigns, or one side wins the game with a checkmate. Beato was about to collide with the first way. That's why Lambda crushed that chance and managed to just barely avoid her losing. That's a wonderful bit of support within the game. This game. In that case, the only way left for this game to end is for me to win. At the very least, until I do win. This witch called Lambda Delta can probably try to buy time for Beato's condition to turn back around. But that would just prolong Beato's suffering even more. Neither of us want that. Both Beato and I fought with all we had trying to win. It was because we were both giving it everything we could muster that the game repeated several times to begin with. And that was also why, that one time, we confronted each other head-on with all of our strength. And Beato admitted defeat. She said she wanted me to end this game, and entrusted everything to me. So Burncastle's words were the truth. She said it was my fault that Beato had become a living corpse. That was true. But it was something both of us wanted. Our match has already been resolved. Even so, the game won't end. That's why Beato put her trust in me. She told me to win quickly and end this game. Now that the game has been resolved, for it to continue any further would be torture without end to Beato. Nothing more than a nightmare. I have to give her a perfect checkmate, end this game in the truest sense, and give Beato a peaceful sleep. For that reason, I'll keep fighting. But by continuing the game, Beato's eternal torture will continue. It felt as though I could only let her sleep peacefully by slowly strangling her to death. It's starting to feel like the truth doesn't matter anymore. Who gives a crap about the game if Beato is satisfied? Beato resigned. I'll ignore the truth of the witch illusions and return home with my family. What's wrong with that? If only Lambda Delta hadn't placed the curse of that shackle on her, this battle would be over already. That's why I find it detestable. This game, where I have to torment Beato even more to end it, is detestable. What's this? Beato has started to look like she's in pain every time you get close to the truth, so you're suddenly going easy on her? Then just go as easy on her as you can. And why don't you just let Beato win while you're at it? Then your little sister can have a lonely, tragic future forced on her endlessly. That's not how it is. That's right. I have to return, for Anju's sake as well. I know this isn't the time to start feeling compassion for Beato. I thought there was a but coming, but there wasn't. In that case, make sure you kill her. Kill this witch without fail.
Even though Beato was right there, Bernkastel spoke without holding back.
Your goal is to kill this woman. In the last game, you said it at Beato's request. You said, I will kill you.
Yeah, that may be true, but that doesn't give you a right to comment on it.
Did you know? When you tear one of your fingernails out, it's better to do it in one go. Pulling it out like you do, gently, timidly, twisting and slow, hurts much, much more. What you're doing sounds much more like torture to me. If you have any compassion, kill her in one blow. That's how killing works.
That's none of your business. I'm the one to decide how to perform her last rites. You and that Lambda Delta witch have nothing to do with this. I will kill her. I won't let anyone else do it.
As long as you don't lose that willpower, I'm betting on you. Alright? Make sure you don't forget. Unless this game is resolved, you will never be released. You won't be allowed to abandon this game either.
I get it.
I know what Lambda is after. She wants to make you lose your will to fight just like Beato. To make you a pair of living dolls, and to keep this world in perpetual equilibrium. You don't want that, do you? I wouldn't like it either.
Why should I care about what you want? Still, I won't throw this game away. I won't abandon the responsibility of fighting with Beato.
I'm glad our goals are the same. So, this means you'll be able to kill this child without any hesitation, right?
That's right. I have no way of knowing whether those words eased her pain or hurt her. But because of this dull tingling in my chest, I believe that she must have been hurt. I have no way of knowing what the silent Beato feels. If I believe she's been hurt, is that any different from her being hurt? And if I hadn't thought I hurt her, would I have been able to get by without hurting anyone?
So, about that Beato who's drinking tea over there with Natsuhi. You can handle that, right?
Yeah. No problem.
It's the same as it was with Kinzo. Beatrice doesn't exist. This is a false witch illusion that Natsuhi created from her belief that she thought up a brilliant plan to overcome hardship by borrowing the witch's power. The only reason it looks like the two of them are drinking together is because Lambda Delta, who is the game master and the one who is telling the story, is interpreting it that way. If you stare without a fragment of love for Natsuhi, you won't see illusions like that. That's why, with my eyes, all I can see is Natsuhi all alone, drinking her tea in silence. Without love, it cannot be seen. Because love is lacking, it cannot be seen. That's a fantasy that Natsuhi's showing us. Beatrice doesn't exist there. Ugh.
Beato mumbled softly. It was a small voice that made it sound like she was in pain. The thorn of Bernkastel's truth had stabbed into her chest. Yeah, that's probably true. I think your theory is right. But don't say that in front of Beato.
It doesn't matter where I say it. This is Beato's world.
Also, it's not like I'm protecting Beato, but there is a possibility that Aunt Natsuhi really is drinking tea with some unknown person X calling themselves Beatrice. This scene takes place a year before everything. The number of people on the island on this day has never been shown with the red truth.
Sure. Even Lambda hasn't said anything in red about the number of people in Rokujima on this day.
In that case, it's possible to claim that Aunt Natsuhi really did drink tea with a woman calling herself Beatrice. Just like I can't deny your theory, you can't deny mine. That means you can't say for sure whether the Beato there is an illusion or not.
Oh, the cat box theory? That might have worked on Beato, but it won't work on me.
Why?
After all, Natsuhi's drinking tea all by herself right there.
There was a violent sound of glass breaking, and the Beato joking around Natsuhi's newlywed years and laughing happily was erased. A lonely wind blew, and the one person who remained on the bench drinking tea with a tired expression was Aunt Natsuhi, all alone. Beato groaned. I could see clearly that she was in anguish. Another witch illusion had been smashed, calling Beato towards death. In short, this is what the battle to let Beato rest in peace is all about. A second ago, Burncastle likened our fight to the torture of tearing fingernails out. If I have to tear them out anyway, then my last bit of compassion towards Beato should be to minimize that pain. In other words, even if I want to minimize the pain, I still have to cause it. I have to accept that look of anguish on her face. And at the same time, this made me realize what a merciless thing the red truth was. Right now, in this rose garden, there is no one except Aunt Natsuhi. In other words, there are no observers except for Aunt Natsuhi. So if that lone observer were to say that she'd had some tea with Beato, no one should be able to refute that. If no one can refute it, doesn't that mean it's the truth? Aunt Natsuhi is enjoying the roses and drinking tea together with Beato. How could anyone have the right to mercilessly trample that pleasant moment? So the truth we were looking at just now was Lambda's, because game board. But I guess she borrowed it from Natsuhi? That's how I interpret it anyway. But it's a little confusing. Well, not confusing, but it's like not super obvious. Like they don't outright tell you this is in this person's viewpoint, you know. Or you are on the game board right now. They don't really spell it out. Thank you, Lulu. I appreciate it. The red truth is a lot like a blade. In a battle with a witch, it's a blade that sometimes tears your theories apart and sometimes serves as a weapon you can fight back with.
I know. So what?
Don't use it without reason. Cat, I also was confused for a little bit. Yeah. It's fine. We went over the whole are we on the game board or not thing already. That part confused me.
Also, thank you.
A blade is a tool if you use it as intended, but it's nothing but a murderous weapon if you use it out of malice. It was true that Aunt Natsuhi hadn't really been drinking tea with a witch. However, Saying that with the red truth probably has nothing to do with our game. Our game is the tale of October 1986. The 2 days of the crime gives us more than enough time to injure each other with our red and blue blades glistening. This isn't about the witch illusions. It's about Aunt Natsuhi's privacy. How could anyone have the right to expose that?
Do you want to acknowledge that a witch actually existed here and drank tea with Natsuhi? Weren't you trying to deny the existence of witches?
Yes, during the game of the 2-day period from October 4th to October 5th, 1986. But I have no desire to question whether or not witches exist outside that game board. In the first place, it's impossible to deny the existence of witches because of the devil's proof. And, according to the rules of this game, saying something like that in red is a forbidden move that leads to a stalemate. You can't deny the existence of witches even with the red truth.
True. I never thought I'd hear you talk about witches existing. Not bad, Lambda. You've done a good job of getting Battler stuck between his human culprit theory and the thought that it doesn't matter whether witches exist or not. She really excels at controlling a human's heart. Looks like I'd better start helping you out even more.
I really couldn't care less about you two. Disappear. This game is between Beato and me. We're gonna keep this game to ourselves.
No way.
What?
After all, I'm enjoying this game too.
Burncastle disappeared, leaving only that unpleasant laugh behind. After that, all that remained was Natsuhi, sipping tea all alone. Beato, her hand still on the teacup as she stared blankly at the surface of the liquid, and me. Burncastle, Lambda Delta. Virgilia called them your friends, but you really should have chosen your friends more carefully. Alright, maybe they actually make a good match with an ill-natured person like you. Beato didn't answer. Battler took Beato's hand, made her hold the cup again, and brought it to her lips. Beato made a quiet sound in her throat and drank just one more mouthful. Then Natsuhi's lonely tea time ended. The truth, which was only hers and observed by no one else, had been defiled. In Natsuhi's world, that tea party, which had been peaceful despite her annoyance at Beato for making fun of her too much, must have come to an end, and the two of them probably went their separate ways. However, in Natsuhi's exposed truth, she was all alone. Natsuhi traipsed away. On the bench, only a single person's cup remained. And that's where I'm gonna call it for the day. That was sad. I'm very sorry for the sadness. I love the art in this game, yeah. Yeah, that was a great episode. I'm a little... Words. How to words. I named this episode, the stream, right? I named it Whom's the heck is that? Because I thought that that blue-haired girl would pop up this episode, but no. So I guess I'll just name next episode the same thing. Because why not? Also, I'm glad we found a wife for Natsuhi in Lulu. That's great. I'm just gonna click this so that the intro doesn't constantly play in the background. Yeah, I'll just recycle the stream name. Efficient. Yes, many blessings to your union. You wouldn't have noticed if I didn't say it? Yeah, that's fair. It's... Twitch like puts them under the stream, so like on most devices you're not even gonna be able to see it unless you look for it. But yes, take good care of our wonderful Aunt Natsuhi, whom we all love a lot, apparently. Which is great. She gets a lot of crap from people, but I like her. Anyway. Let me just, You don't like questions arc Natsuhi? That's fair. I didn't really like her super much either. The first time I played. Like I had sympathy for her because she's obviously in a really tough situation where people don't really respect her. Her husband's kind of like incompetent and kind of a bad dude to her, really. He doesn't treat her very well. But that was kind of the extent of it, you know? I was like, well, I feel bad for you, but I don't like you. And then Answer's arc comes along and it's like, oh. You have a whole lot of stuff going on there that I didn't know about. Okay. I respect it. Yes, you shouldn't be fools. That whole family is just cursed. You know, if you adjust your opinion after finding out more information, that's the ideal, right? That's all you can do. You don't have to worry about like being judgmental or anything. If you can, as long as you can do that, you're good. Very valuable life skill. Oh my god, the music was still playing. I turned the volume down, but... Hell yeah. That's all you need in life, just, you know, to keep your brain open for more information. And to, you know, toss out the junk out the other ear. One ear's for information, the other ear's for, like, tossing junk out. And they absolutely did do it on purpose. It's to make you kind of rethink, you know, your perspective on the mystery, on characters, on specific situations too, and also to kind of really pin down like what magic is in the context of the series. So the questions arcs are like, they kind of lead you in one direction, and then the answer arcs are like, okay, but what about this though? What about this though? And I kind of feel like question and answer arcs are a bit misleading because it's not super like one-to-one like, gee, what happens? Oh, this happens, you know? It's more like additional info rather than a very clear answer. So don't like expect to have everything like spelled out for you, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so far from what we've seen, magic is definitely more about interpretations of the truth. And less about like, I make sparkles happen and spears rain from the sky, you know? But yeah, definitely don't feel bad for like seeing things a certain way and then realizing, oh, it's different than I thought, because that's part of it. That's part of the experience. That means you're doing it right. Don't stop thinking, you know? Basically by adapting and by being like, hey, yeah, this is new information, my opinion is now different, that means that you didn't stop thinking, which is, yeah. Which means that you're doing better than Balor, generally speaking. Good job. I also want sparklers and spears. Or maybe like... I don't know, I would just probably time travel if I had magic that could do that. I wouldn't change anything, I just think it'd be cool. He is trying. He's just dumb, you know. He had some great himbo moments in this episode. He really did. But Mike, when he's sad, it's like watching, I don't know, like a puppy with 3 legs missing. Like, oh my god, I feel so bad. I just want to take care of him, you know? That's just how I don't know. He just inspires that in me. Yes, I would love to adopt him. Collect all the himbos. Anyway. Yes, okay. So, that's gonna be our episode for today. I have to go sleepsies. And, yeah. We'll be back next week. Maybe then we'll find out who that blue-haired girl is. Maybe we won't. Maybe there will be 3 episodes that are all gonna be called Whom the Heck Is That? I hope not, but I'll actually look up what to expect from next episode next time. Anyway, we're gonna be back on Monday with more 12 minutes, which was very fun last time. I'm looking forward to playing the rest. I think we should be able to finish it. Maybe not. Who knows? It would be very funny if 3 episodes were all called the same thing. Oh my god, each episode will be a new blue-haired person. That would be a nightmare. Yes, so Monday, 12 minutes. Then Wednesday, next week, more Umineko. Yay! And that's it for now. I do love blue-haired characters, so that would be pretty great if a lot of them showed up, but they don't, I don't think. Unless they change. Unless the sequel. There's a sequel, it's not out yet. Not out translated yet. Once we finish the series, I might move over to the follow-up, which is unrelated to Umineko, which is Chiconia, When They Cry, or no Naku Koro. And then, ideally, hopefully after that, the sequel to Umineko will be out, and then we can read all that. which is it's like extra content that's already been out for years, but like packaged up again with a new arc. So like arc 9. Yeah. And oh boy, I really I don't know anything about it. I've managed to avoid all the spoilers. But my god, I need it now. I need it yesterday. But yeah, one day. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of content. And just a fun little thing. Because I think this is, yeah. Next week, Monday, is gonna be the 4th of October. Next week, Tuesday, 5th of October. Which is, you know, Umineko times. And I believe there's like a Twitter thing event, Umitober. I don't know what that is, but I'm gonna find out, and I'll let you know next time. Okay, with that, I'm actually signing off now instead of continuing to ramble even more. Well, let me just swap out my end screen, because I popped up the old one for the video. There we go. Good night, good night. Yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Also the VOD squad. Shout out to you. I appreciate you all very much. And I hope that you have a good night, a good day, a good week. See you next time. Bye-bye.